Written by Abrar Alvi and directed by Guru Dutt, Pyaasa is a tragedy that reveals more about society than one may have signed up for. The story begins with Vijay, an unsuccessful poet who is in the pursuit of getting published in the newspaper but gets turned down because his poems were not about conventional romantic topics but instead address social issues. Dejected, Vijay runs into his nephew and mother, who convince him to come home, where his brothers humiliate him even further for being unemployed. Vijay is unable to bear any criticism, and when he learns that his brother had thrown his files of poems, he starts a fight too. His brother kicks him out of the house, and he straightaway goes to the Raddiwala to find his writing. The Raddiwala tells him that a woman bought his poems, but he did not know who she was. Accepting his fate, Vijay wanders around until he finds a bench to rest on. There, he hears a woman recite his poetry and follows her around. We learn that this woman, Gulabo, was a prostitute looking for a next client and saw that potential in Vijay. But all he wanted were his poems. Gulabo realizes that Vijay was not interested in her and nor did he have the money, so she rudely throws him out of the brothel. But on his way out, Vijay drops a piece of paper through which Gulabo identifies Vijay as the same poet whose poetry she had been reading. The next day, Vijay is again out on the streets when he sees a woman, Meena, step out of a chauffeured car and remembers her from his college days. He reminisces about their romance and how they were once in love with each other. But his bubble breaks soon and he realizes that he needs to do something to earn money. So he takes up a job as a coolie and earns a penny, which he then uses to buy food. But the penny turns out to be fake and the owner starts to kick him out, but that's when Gulabo comes in and pays on Vijay's behalf, apologizing for her previous behavior. They converse and Vijay's courtesy towards her touches Gulabo. But before they could talk further, Vijay leaves abruptly. Vijay's poems help Sattar the masseur, whose business boomed after he started singing Vijay's lyrics out to people in the park, where he would also occasionally meet Vijay. Having nowhere else to go, Vijay also ends up there and bumps into his friend who invites him to their college reunion that night. Once there, Vijay is called on stage to sing for everyone, and seeing Meena amongst the audience, he sings his heart out but leaves immediately after. Outside, a man stops Vijay and inquires about the poems. He gives him his card, revealing that he was a publisher named Ghosh, and asks Vijay to come and meet him at his office. Hoping to get his work published, Vijay goes to meet Ghosh the next day. Vijay insists on reading out his poems, but Ghosh was oddly more interested in Vijay's college life. He then offers Vijay a job and asks him to join from the next day. On his way out, Vijay runs into Meena and is again pulled back in time when they were blissfully in love. Once snapped back to reality, Meena asks how Vijay was doing, and their conversation gives away the fact that after their romance ended, Vijay was unable to be with any other girl. He soon cut short the conversation and leaves, unable to be in her presence for longer than that. On the other hand, Gulabo kept going to the same restaurant where she encountered Vijay last in the hopes of meeting him again, but it was of no use. Vijay had not visited there in a while. Back at his new office, Vijay overhears Ghosh telling another employee that Vijay's poems were not up to the mark and he wouldn't be publishing it. Vijay realizes that Ghosh never intended to in the first place, so he takes his file from his desk. Before he left, Ghosh instructs Vijay to come to his house that night to help out as he was hosting a party. That night, Vijay goes to Ghosh's house and runs into Meena, where he learns that Meena was actually married to Ghosh. Meena warns Vijay against telling Ghosh anything about their past. As the night progresses, Ghosh makes it a point to humiliate Vijay in front of the public. But when the poets start reciting their work, Vijay can't help but join in. He sings a heartbreaking song, but nobody really pays attention to him. A couple of days later, Meena goes to meet Vijay at the office, knowing that Ghosh would be in a meeting. There, she confesses that since he had come back into her life, her feelings for him had returned. Vijay tells her that he wasn't the one who had left. It was her who wanted money, for which he sacrificed their love. With that, Vijay walks out to find Ghosh standing on the other side of the door, listening to everything they had said. Behind closed doors, he interrogates Meena, who denies his accusations. Finally, Ghosh says he would fire Vijay to see how she would feel when her lover was out on the streets. Gulabo, meanwhile, had run into a difficult client who threatened to hand her over to a police officer on patrol. As Gulabo runs away from him, she bumps into Vijay, who saves her by claiming that Gulabo was his wife. Feeling more respected than she had in her life, Gulabo falls in love with Vijay. So much so that she even refuses to meet new clients. She runs into Sattar in the park and confesses her love for Vijay, and he promises to speak to him on her behalf. Vijay ends up near the river bank where he runs into his brothers offering ashes into the water. Vijay asks them who had passed away and they dismissively tell him that the ashes were of their mother. Vijay is shocked that nobody informed him of this, but his brothers tell him that their mother was the only reason they had any ties. Now with her gone, they wanted nothing to do with him. That night, Vijay goes to his friend's house and gets drunk. He stumbles out on the streets lined with prostitutes and sings about the ruthlessness of living a life like that one. Finally, he meets Gulabo, who brings him to her home, but in a drunken state, Vijay starts whining to her about how worthless his life and poems were. Gulabo encourages him, tells him that the world needed more of his writing, but he does not believe it, stating that death would be better. While Gulabo falls asleep on the floor, Vijay lays in bed thinking about his failure. Unable to sit still, he walks out until he comes across a beggar who was shivering in the cold. He offers his jacket to him, but the beggar keeps following him around curiously. They reach the railway station, and while crossing the tracks, the beggar's foot gets stuck while a running train charges towards him. Vijay tries to help him, but it is too late. The beggar pushes Vijay away, but the blinding headlights obscure the vision that would determine the fate of the two men. The next day, news spreads that Vijay had passed away in a painful train accident. Meena felt the ache, but Gulabo's devastation was much more intense. Wanting to give his poems one last chance, she goes to Ghosh's office, where she gives up all her wealth in exchange for the poems to be published. Ghosh agrees, and to everyone's surprise, Vijay's poems get sold out everywhere. So much so that Vijay's friend, who had a copy of his poems, even goes to Ghosh and sells them for a hefty profit. That's when we realize that Vijay was actually alive in the hospital and had refused to identify himself. Until he hears the nurse reading his poems out loud, and it was as though life returned to his body upon seeing his work bound in a book. But nobody believes him, and they assume that he has actually lost his mind. They restrain him and put him in a mental asylum. Vijay's brothers, learning of his success, go to Ghosh to get their share from the profits too. At first, Ghosh turns them down, but when he learns that Vijay is alive, not only does he refuse to identify him, but also agrees to share the profits with Vijay's brothers in exchange for them to keep their mouths shut. Fortunately, Vijay sees Sattar through the fences of the mental asylum and convinces him to help him with his escape. Vijay goes to his brothers, where they refuse to recognize him and kick him out of the house. Crushed, Vijay wanders in the tram, where he overhears a man claiming to have been friends with him, heading to a function that commemorates Vijay's one-year death anniversary. Once there, he watches Ghosh deliver a speech where he says he would do anything to have saved Vijay and how it was society that was responsible for his death for not valuing his work while he was alive, pushing him into hunger and unemployment. Shocked at the double standards, Vijay starts singing the song, calling the people out on their hypocrisy and in turn revealing his identity to the world. Meena, Gulabo and everybody realize that Vijay was actually alive, and a stampede breaks out in the hall. Ghosh, upset with everything, tells Vijay's friend to figure out a way to keep Vijay's brother's mouth shut. But he ends up double-crossing Ghosh and goes to the publisher who had first refused to publish Vijay's poem but was now looking at it as a profitable investment. He even agrees to pay the brothers 15,000 rupees in exchange for the brothers to identify Vijay. But once on stage, Vijay himself denies to be the person the audience was chanting slogans for. The people feel cheated and charge towards him, but Sattar helps Vijay escape the crowd. Meena runs behind him and encourages him to tell the world the truth, but Vijay was adamant. He did not want to be at the mercy of the people who were so two-faced and selfish, who did not care about him when he was alive but took away all his hope and pulled him down constantly. He leaves from there and goes to meet Gulabo, who was unwell, but the minute she sensed Vijay coming, she runs out and finds him at her doorstep. She embraces him as he tells her that he was going to go far away from this world and asks her to accompany him. Gulabo agrees, and both of them leave hand in hand to find their own corner in the world from where they would never have to return. So what was the point of Pyaasa? In the midst of a world that was shaping to be ruthless, selfish and vain, we have Vijay, an idealistic poet who was unwilling to compromise his work just to be published. He wrote his heart out, performed with utmost sincerity, and what did he get in return? Disrespect, a broken heart and an empty stomach. But when he was assumed dead, the same people who didn't think his work mattered were the ones who came back to reap the benefits. And through all his ups and downs, there was only one person who stayed by his side consistently, Gulabo, who was herself shunned by the world. Vijay's ultimate decision to decline the fame was his way of asserting his ideals. The world didn't come to his rescue when he needed it, and now he was beyond it all. What other film do you want us to recap next? Comment down below to let us know. Like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in our next video.